I never meant to keep score. Seriously, I'm not the obsessive type. I don't color code socks or alphabetize my spice rack. But you'd be surprised what your brain starts doing when the person you love keeps saying no and never explains why. At first, it was just a passing thought. It started in late October. I remember that clearly because the leaves were already down and Olivia was wrapped in that cream-colored cardigan she loved, the one that made her look effortlessly elegant, like a woman on a coffee commercial. I made her tea that night, lit a candle, even rubbed her shoulders after dinner, gently, just to be close. She didn't pull away, but she didn't lean in either. And when I finally kissed her neck and whispered that maybe we could take the evening upstairs, she sighed. Not a soft, warm sigh. One of those long, deflating ones that carries a weight of practiced rejection. Babe, I'm just not in the mood tonight. Can we not make this a thing? I didn't argue. I kissed her temple and said, of course. Because what kind of guy gets upset about one night? We're adults. People get tired. That's normal. But that was night one. I started noticing how often that same sigh came out of her. How the little rejections started stacking, even if I didn't want to admit it. The following week, same response. Next week, again. No explanation. No affection to soften the brush off. Just that now familiar script. Not tonight, I'm stressed, let's just cuddle, or the nuclear option, you're being needy again. That one hit differently. Needy? I repeated once, trying not to sound wounded. I'm just trying to connect. Well, maybe try connecting without making everything about that, okay? She didn't even look up from her phone. I wish I could say I handled that like a champ. But that night, lying beside her, her body turned away from me, breathing slow and steady, I stared at the ceiling for hours, wondering what changed. We used to be spontaneous, playful. She used to laugh when I pulled her close in the kitchen, whispering something ridiculous just to hear her giggle. We used to meet eyes across the room at parties and know exactly when to leave early. I missed that look. I missed her. So one evening, purely out of curiosity or maybe desperation, I opened Google Calendar. I marked that day with a red X. Just for me. Just to track patterns, I told myself. No one would ever see it. One red X became 2, then 5. Then a whole row, like a red picket fence, stretched across my calendar, one day after another, each marking another quiet, invisible rejection. At first, it was just curiosity. I told myself that. I wasn't keeping score, I was just observing, trying to make sense of the growing silence between us. But curiosity quickly turned into habit. I didn't stop at the excess. I started leaving little notes beside them, like a lonely archaeologist piecing together fragments of a forgotten language, said she was bloated. Long day at work. Didn't feel sexy today. Bad sleep again. Not in the headspace. Each one sounded reasonable, logical, human. But together, they formed a pattern, a wall. And I was on the other side of it. I remember one particular night that stung more than usual. It was a Thursday. I came home from work early, brought her favorite Thai takeout. She was already in pajamas, curled up on the couch, watching a cooking show she didn't even like. It was just background noise while she scrolled through her phone. I sat down beside her, brushed her hair behind her ear, and said, "I missed you today." She looked at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. "You saw me this morning." "Yeah, I know. I just mean, I miss us." She paused, sighed through her nose, then went back to her phone. "You're sweet, but I'm not really in a lovey mood right now." That phrase, lovey mood, it felt like she'd taken something meaningful and shrunk it into a cartoon, as if wanting to feel close to my wife made me some kind of needy golden retriever. That night, I marked another red X. The next week, I tried harder. I planned a weekend getaway, just the two of us. A little A-frame cabin in the woods with a fireplace, soft blankets, and no distractions. I picked a place she'd once bookmarked on Pinterest years ago. I even remembered the post, "Someday." I made it reality. She was surprised when I told her. Smiled. Said, "Wow, you actually remembered that?" I took it as a good sign. I thought maybe, just maybe, this would be what we needed. But the moment we got there, she fell into herself. She took selfies on the porch with the mountains behind her, posted aesthetic photos of our mugs of tea, the knitted socks I'd packed for her, the flickering fire, everything but us. She brought a book but didn't read it. Spent more time curled up with her phone than with me. She laughed quietly at something she was reading, a message, probably, then quickly turned the screen away when I glanced over. I didn't say anything. That night, while the snow fell softly outside and the wind howled through the pines, I sat beside her on the couch and kissed her shoulder. Her skin was warm. I trailed my hand lightly down her arm, and she flinched not sharply, but enough. "Hey," I said gently, "I miss being close to you." She shifted under the blanket, her body stiffening. "We're here, aren't we?" she said flatly. "Isn't that enough?" Being in the same room isn't the same as being close. She finally looked at me then. Not with anger. Not even annoyance. Just exhaustion. "God, do you ever not want something from me?" "What do you mean?" "This," she said, waving vaguely between us. "Every time we're alone, you're waiting for it. It's like I can't even relax without being expected to perform or something." I felt myself shrink. "I didn't mean to make you feel like that," I said. "I thought this trip was for us to reconnect." "Then stop pressuring me," she said coldly, and pulled the blanket tighter around herself. "Seriously, just stop." I didn't sleep in the bedroom that night. Not because she asked me not to. She didn't. She just rolled over, faced the wall, and pulled the covers over her head like a barrier. The silence in that room was heavier than anything I'd ever felt. When we got home, I opened my calendar and marked another red X. This time I added a note. Weekend getaway. No connection. Blamed pressure. It was around then that something shifted inside me. Not rage. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Not sadness either, though that came later. Just a numb sort of clarity. Like I'd been waiting at the wrong train station, and someone finally whispered, "She's not coming." That's when I expanded the calendar. I started noting more than just the red XS. I began tracking her moods. Behavior. Small inconsistencies. Innocent things, really, but they stacked oddly. Came home unusually upbeat, girls' night. Put on perfume to go get groceries. Extra gym sessions. New leggings. Phone locked tighter now. Laughs while texting, never says from whom. I felt ridiculous, like a paranoid fool, a husband-turned-sleuth in his own kitchen. And yet, the more I observed, the less it felt like imagination. The pattern was there, right in front of me, and I was just beginning to understand what it meant. It was a Wednesday afternoon when I found it. I wasn't snooping. Not exactly. I was looking for one of Olivia's scarves, the maroon one with the little white stars. She said she couldn't find it and asked me to check her side of the closet while she finished getting ready. I bent down, pushed aside a storage bin, and something caught my eye. A soft pink notebook tucked between old sweaters and a folded yoga mat. It looked harmless, like the kind of journal people use for inspirational quotes or meal planning. I shouldn't have opened it. I know that. But my hand moved before my guilt could say anything. The first few pages were normal enough. Grocery lists, reminders, some hand-scribbled notes about skincare routines. But then I found the grid. It was a monthly calendar layout, drawn in pen. Little hearts filled random days. Some had one heart. Others had two or even three, stacked or side by side. One had a tiny lightning bolt beside it. Another, the letter L in a circle. On some pages, the hearts were replaced by small flame icons. Once I saw a wine glass doodle and a note, barely made it home that night. I froze. At first, my brain tried to rationalize. Was this her mood tracker? A gratitude journal? Some kind of romantic memory log? But the deeper I looked, the clearer it became. This wasn't about us. Nowhere on that calendar was my name. No mention of our cabin trip. No hearts on our anniversary. No notes on the nights we'd share something, or the ones where I tried and got that sigh again. But there were notes like, way better than Jay. Can't walk straight, laughing out loud. Hotel room 423. Unexpected visit, best surprise, tried new cologne. Didn't love it, but still worth it. I turned the page and my stomach flipped. There was a list like a ranking. Initials, maybe. L, T, J, And under each name, categories: hands, mouth, stamina, humor, boldness, even a weird one labeled edge. My own name wasn't on it. That's when my hands began to shake. Not from rage, from the sheer disconnect. From realizing that while I was tracking silence and red excess, she was tracking something else entirely. Something vivid, secret, and not meant for me. I put the notebook back exactly where I found it. Quietly, carefully, as if it were radioactive. I walked out of the closet like I hadn't just stepped through a trapdoor. She was in the hallway mirror, fixing her lipstick. "Find it?" she asked, dabbing the corner of her mouth. "No," I said, managing a half smile. "Not yet." She turned and kissed my cheek lightly, like brushing away a crumb, and walked past me, humming. I stood there, still feeling her notebook in my hands, and something inside me began to crack. I didn't sleep that night. I lay next to her in the dark, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding like it was trying to break out of my chest. Olivia was already asleep, or pretending to be. Her breathing was steady, slow, peaceful. I watched her silhouette in the faint glow from the hallway and wondered how many of those peaceful nights she had slipped back into our bed after, whoever he was, who they were. I wanted to wake her up, shake her, scream, ask her who Elle was and why the hell I wasn't even worth a single heart in her twisted little love log. But I didn't. Instead, I got up quietly, walked to the kitchen, and sat at the table with my laptop. I opened my own calendar, the digital one she never knew existed, and stared at the red excess. The wall I'd built day after day, rejection after rejection. One entry caught my eye. Weekend getaway. No connection. Blamed pressure. That was the same weekend she'd written barely made it home that night in her notebook. There was even a winking face next to it. She hadn't just rejected me that weekend. She'd replaced me with someone else. While I was lighting candles and pouring wine, she was no. I stopped myself. I couldn't finish that thought without getting sick. The next morning, she was in a great mood, humming again, making avocado toast like nothing had happened. "You okay?" she asked, catching my stare. "Didn't sleep well," I muttered. Maybe you should try melatonin. Works wonders." I studied her. She looked radiant, energized, like someone living a secret second life that was feeding her soul while draining mine. Later that evening, I tried to talk. I sat on the edge of the couch while she was watching some home makeover show. Her legs were tucked under her, wine glass in hand, as always. "Liv," I started, my voice low. "Can I ask you something? And I want you to be completely honest." She muted the TV and turned to me with a raised brow. "You sound serious. What's up? Are you happy? With me? With us?" She blinked. Not defensively, just surprised. Then gave a half smile. "That's a loaded question." "Maybe, but I've been feeling like we've been off. Like you're somewhere else lately. Emotionally. Physically." She didn't speak right away. She just looked at me, then took a sip of wine and set the glass down carefully. "You've been acting weird," she said. "Quiet. Distant. A little. Intense. Like you're always waiting for something from me." "I guess I am," I admitted. "I miss you. I miss us. I miss when we were connected." Her expression didn't soften. It shifted subtly, like she was preparing to deliver a statement she'd already rehearsed. "You know, you've made intimacy feel like a performance," she said. "Like a quota I'm supposed to meet or else you get disappointed." That stung, because I'd tried so hard not to pressure her, to be patient, gentle, to hear her every time she said, "Not tonight." "I've never demanded anything from you," I said. "But when the answer is always no, and there's no explanation, what am I supposed to feel?" She crossed her arms, like a grown man who understands that sometimes people go through things. Hormones, stress, burnout. It's not always about you, you know. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Is there someone else?" She froze. Not for long, just a second. But it was enough. "Wow," she said slowly, as if I'd accused her of a crime. "So that's what this is. You've been building this up in your head, haven't you?" I found your notebook, Olivia. Silence. Not the shocked kind. not denial. Just a slow inhale, a tightening of her jaw. You went through my things? I wasn't looking for it. I was getting your scarf. You asked me to. That's private. I journal. It helps me clear my head. You don't journal rankings. And you don't put lightning bolts next to someone's initials unless you shouldn't have read that. She cut in sharply. That was not for you. Neither was any of it, apparently. She stared at me, her expression unreadable. And then she smiled. Not sweetly, not nervously. A small, cold, knowing smile. You kept a calendar, too. Didn't you? I blinked. What? You think I didn't notice? The way you marked your little mental scoreboard every time I said no? You acted like a saint, but you were counting, weren't you? Tracking every night I didn't perform for you. I didn't answer, because she was right. I had been counting. Not out of spite, out of survival. But in her mouth, the truth sounded ugly. Petty, shameful. You think that makes us even? I asked. She stood up, took her glass, and walked to the kitchen. As she passed me, she said under her breath, "It makes us tired." After she said it, "It makes us tired," she turned and left the room. No shouting, no tears. Just that one sentence, like a period at the end of a long, cruel essay. I stood there, staring at the doorway where she had been seconds earlier, still hearing the faint sound of her steps on the stairs. She didn't slam the door. She didn't even look back. And that, somehow, was worse. I stayed in the living room long after she'd gone upstairs. I didn't turn the lights on. Just sat there in the dim blue glow of the television menu screen, remote still in my hand, not even realizing the show had ended. I felt hollow, not furious, not broken, just emptied, like someone had scooped the center out of me and left the skin behind to pretend. I thought I'd cry, or rage, or at least pace around the room, searching for something to hold on to. But I didn't move. Instead, I thought about all the nights I had made space for her silence. The nights I had smiled through rejection. The dinners I had prepared hoping for closeness. The walks we took where I held her hand and told myself this still means something. And now I realized she hadn't just pulled away. She had rewritten what we were. Quietly, confidently, while I was busy waiting for a version of her that no longer existed. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that damn notebook. The hearts, the stars, the rankings. That one line, better than Jay, it burned through my skull like neon. In the silence of that room, the weight of what I'd tolerated finally crushed the last excuse I'd been clinging to. And I knew this wasn't about misunderstandings. It was about betrayal. The next few days passed in a haze. We didn't speak about the notebook. She didn't apologize. I didn't press her. It was like we had entered a Cold War. No bombs dropped, but every silence felt radioactive. She still smiled at her phone, still went to the gym in her best leggings, still said she was drained or not in the right headspace when I asked if we could talk. She was unbothered. I was unraveling. At one point, I tried writing her a letter. Something honest, gentle, vulnerable. I thought if I could just get the words right, maybe I could reach the version of her that used to hold my face in her hands and say she never wanted to lose me. But the words looked pathetic on the page. Hollow. So I ripped it up. Instead, I did something else. I printed my calendar. Every red X. Every note. Every rejected gesture. Every moment I held back tears, stayed silent, gave space. I taped it to the fridge. Didn't say a word. That evening, she came home, dropped her gym bag by the door, and walked into the kitchen. I heard the pause. The silence stretched. Then her voice, flat, really. I stood in the hallway out of view, leaning against the wall. That's what we're doing now, she added. Posting scoreboards like passive-aggressive art projects? I stepped out and met her eyes. You said I was keeping track, I said quietly. You were right. I was. She crossed her arms, shaking her head. You know what's sad? You really think this is some kind of proof that you are the victim. Like if you collect enough little red marks, it'll explain why your wife stopped wanting you. Did you ever think I stopped because of all of this? She continued. Because you were always watching me? Waiting for me to fail some invisible test. Invisible, I said, stepping closer. Olivia, You wrote scores next to people's initials. You gave someone a flame rating and called him better than me. That's not an invisible test. That's deliberate. And yet, you still stayed, she snapped. Still tried to win me back like I was a prize you deserved just for not yelling. That one landed hard. She walked past me again, up the stairs. I didn't follow this time. The next morning, I made the decision to leave. I sat up slowly on the couch, blanket half off, neck stiff. The silence in the house was heavy. Not peaceful, just blank. Like a hotel room after checkout. Upstairs, I could hear Olivia moving around. Drawers opening. Blow dryer buzzing faintly behind the closed door. Business as usual. Just another Thursday to her. To me, it was the day I stopped pretending. I walked to the bedroom we used to share. The door was wide open. She was in front of the mirror, dressed sharply in a slate gray blouse tucked into black slacks. Hair straightened. Gold hoop earrings. She looked powerful. Controlled. Like someone heading to a negotiation she knew she'd win. "You're up early," she said, noticing me in the reflection. "Couldn't sleep," I replied. "You really should try melatonin," she said lightly, like we were talking about vitamins. I looked at her. Really looked. She was radiant, not in a romantic way, but in that specific glow people have when they've already made peace with something you haven't even processed. She turned to grab her bag. "Don't wait up, by the way. I've got that late dinner with the team." "Which team?" I asked, almost without meaning to. She paused, eyes flicking to mine. "The usual," she said after a beat. "Work people." "L?" She froze for half a second. A tiny tell. "What are you even implying?" she said, suddenly colder. "Nothing," I said. "Not anymore." She gave a tight smile. "Not defensive. Not afraid. Just done." "I really hope this little phase of yours passes," she added, brushing her hair back. "You've been so moody lately. It's draining." She said it like I was an inconvenience. A malfunctioning appliance she was waiting to return. That was the moment I realized she didn't feel guilty. She felt inconvenienced. So I walked to the closet, pulled out the old duffel bag I used for weekend trips. I wasn't thinking theatrically. No speeches. No threats. Just movement. Hands folding shirts. Rolling socks. Packing charger cables. I could feel her eyes on my back. "What are you doing?" "Leaving for a while." "Because of that stupid notebook?" she asked, tone rising for the first time. "No," I said, zipping the bag. "Because of everything after." She scoffed. Actually scoffed. "So what? You're the victim now?" "No," I said calmly. Just not willing to be the ghost in my own house anymore. I grabbed the bag, walked past her, and stopped only once in the hallway. "You don't love me, Olivia." "Not anymore. And maybe you haven't for a long time." "That's okay. But I'm done waiting for someone who doesn't even look up from her phone when I'm bleeding in front of her." She didn't say a word. Didn't cry. Didn't ask me to stay. She just stared, perfectly still, like a statue built out of old apathy. And that told me everything I needed to know. It's been 4 weeks since I walked out. I moved in with a friend from college, Josh, who offered me his guest room without asking any questions. At first, I appreciated the silence, the lack of small talk, just the hum of a different fridge, the sound of someone else making coffee in the morning, and the simple peace of not being watched like a burden. I kept the duffel bag by the door for the first week, just in case I changed my mind. I didn't. Olivia hasn't called. Not once. No long message. No apology. No, I didn't mean it. Nothing. At first, that crushed me. Then it cleared the air like a thunderstorm. Because her silence said what I hadn't let myself believe, she never planned to fix it. She had already made peace with living without me while I was still begging for scraps of the version of her that existed years ago. I found my calendar again the other night, the one I used to track every rejection. I unfolded it carefully. It looked so small now. All those red XS. All those quiet nights. All those little notes trying to explain away a truth I didn't want to name. I stared at the last marked day, the night I asked if she was happy. The night she smiled without blinking and blamed me for everything. I picked up a pen, and for the first time, I didn't draw an X. I wrote one line right at the bottom. This is the day I stopped waiting. Then I folded it, slid it into the back of a notebook, and shut the drawer. I don't know what comes next. I'm not rushing into anything. I'm not reading self-help books or writing angry letters. I'm just breathing, eating breakfast without walking on eggshells, sitting on the couch without being ignored, falling asleep without pretending everything's fine. It's not dramatic. It's not explosive, but it's mine. And I think that's a pretty good start.